Circle's webinar. EndtoEnd Circle is a personal ecosystem for startups that facilitates the small business growth and knowledge through the smart tech. It's a close friend for you all, and we want you to see you grow along with us. So at EndtoEnd Circles, we have 3 or 4 offerings that what we have for you. The number one is connecting the rest of the you with the rest of the startup ecosystem that we are already having. We are currently close to 1,750 startups that we are having. And the second one is we want you to help gain the financial fitness by using our QuickBooks. We are also conducting classes how you can achieve the financial fitness. The third part is actually supporting all the startups who are actually building applications for other small businesses to take advantage of EndtoEnd small business customer base. We are about 4 million in number of customers. You can also build applications on our QuickBooks platform. The fourth and final one is where we are actually, this particular program is featured, which is the mentoring track. We are actually in the process of providing technical and business mentoring for all the startups. And with that introduction of EndtoEnd Circle, today we have a guest speaker, Suresh Sambandam. He is the founder and CEO of OrangeScape, located in Chennai, a homegrown company that offers the SaaS product for all the small businesses. It's called KiSSFLOW. It has about 10,000 plus customers across 160 countries. And Suresh Sambandam have about close to 20 years of industry experience in the software industry. So he will be talking over about how to build a company at a scale of a SaaS scale. So with that introduction, please Suresh, take it over.
Okay, thank you, Vijay, and thanks, and really appreciate that, and thanks EndtoEnd Circles, and hello everyone, great to meet you guys. So let me do a quick, bear with me for a minute or so, a little bit tell you about KiSSFLOW because it's so much relevant to what we're going to talk a little later. So KiSSFLOW is a digital workplace. We have, in a nutshell, this is a platform, it's a unified platform. If you don't have KiSSFLOW, you have to buy all the software that is listed on the left-hand side, and you have to pay at least $100,000 to start using it, whereas KiSSFLOW provides you all of that in one single unified environment, right? And we have customers across 160 countries. These are some of the big brands that use our product at the global level. We have a lot of Fortune 500 customers who use KiSSFLOW. And also in India, we have a number of popular brands. Pretty much all the popular e-commerce companies, starting from Flipkart onwards, use our software. Not just that, we also have banks like RBL or the brick and mortar manufacturing companies like Fevicol, Pidilite, all of that use our software. KiSSFLOW is actually a leader in the business process management space, among others, by G2 Crowd. This is a winter 2019 rating. We are also featured in both Forrester as well as Gartner research reports. We are one of the companies in the top 10 global list of both Forrester and Gartner. So that's a quick background about KiSSFLOW. But before I step deep into the session, I want to also set the stage for why we are talking about this, right? And by the way, you need to understand, this is a workshop that I do for go-to-market for SaaS. Is a workshop that I do for 4 to 5 hours, and we are trying to compress all of that into a 40-minute session and then leave some time for Q&A at the end. So just bear in mind, so that it's going to be a little bit rushed, right? So what is relevant right now is keep this number in mind, 66. I'll come back to it, right? So if you really look at the context today, India IT industry is around $180 billion, right? And it's growing at around 8%. Now, at 8% growth, you're going to take 25 years to get to $1 trillion of revenue from IT. And that's a long way to go, right? We cannot wait for 25 years. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is why is it taking so much time? Is because the value creation in the traditional IT services business, which is India is dominantly about IT services, is not very high. What that really means is if you create $1 of revenue in a typical IT services business, it's going to be, your company is going to be worth anywhere between 2 to 3 times, and that's about it, right? So you're investing the same amount of effort creating a company, but it's not actually producing that much value, right? But on the other hand, we have a SaaS company like Freshworks or KiSSFLOW or Zoho. These are like 3 popular companies in India, right? If you really look at Freshworks revenue, around a year ago, they published their revenue around $100 million publicly, and they were valued at that time $1.5 billion. And we're really looking at 15 times multiple, right? So the Indian IT services industry is growing at around, the multiples are anywhere between 2x, but here we are talking about 15x. So really talking about something like 10 times value creation if you're building a SaaS company like the ones that we talked about, like a company like KiSSFLOW. If you try to build something like that, it is going to be that much more valuable, and not just it's going to be valuable for yourself, it's also a great contribution to the society, to the country, and to the economy, of course, right? So that's why it's all the more relevant to talk about this at this point in time. We call this how to build India as a SaaS nation, right? This is a personal cause that I am evangelizing across the country, right? Now, why did I talk about 66? Because if you have a 15x multiple and you have $1 trillion economy or value creation is the goal, you hardly need only 66 companies, right? With $1 billion revenue. If you create 66 companies with $1 billion in revenue, you can get to $1 trillion of value creation in the SaaS space, right? And that's now sounds reasonably feasible to do, because 66 is not a big number, but 1 trillion is still a big number, right? And even if you have 30 states in the country, and even if you do 2 companies in each state, we are really looking at 60 companies. So now it's not really that difficult to really go for this goal, right? Now, unfortunately, you cannot directly, there is no shortcut to creating the $66 billion companies, right? You need to build a pyramid of a lot of companies making $1 million revenue, and some of them will naturally go on to become a $10 million company, and some of them will become $1 billion company. So we need to really build a huge ecosystem, and that's why programs like Intuit Circles or other programs which we do part of SAS Blooming and other events that I'm part of are very, very important, and building this comprehensive, massive ecosystem of SaaS companies in India, because eventually you need to get that 66 companies are doing $1 billion in revenue so that we create $1 trillion of value creation in the country, right? So that's how it's important. Now, this is not a pipe dream, right? Because I wanted to show that in Chennai is supposed to be called as the SaaS capital of India, and Chennai has already shown a path to it. And if Chennai can do it, any other city in India can do it, right? That's what I'm planning to do. This is the list of sort of companies in the SaaS space in Chennai, right? And Chennai has more than $1 billion of SaaS revenues, right? And Chennai has only $500 million in funding. What this really means is we are deeply rooted in the unit economics and value creation, profitability, and growing the company sensibly, unlike e-commerce companies, for example, right? So half the funding, double the revenue, right? And also Chennai has a talent of 15,000 people who are working primarily in SaaS. When you're talking about here, we are talking about talent which is multifaceted. We are really talking about talent like not just engineering talent, but also product management talent, but also marketing talent, but also inside sales talent, but also design talent, and also customer success. So to make a SaaS company successful, you really need, there is a variety, a whole host of talent that is required, and Chennai has that talent. Now, how is this possible, right? And most people think, money is the one that makes it possible. But here is a slide where I'm showing you there are companies which have been like two big companies, Freshworks, which is built heavily funded, and we have Zoho, which is bigger than Freshworks, which is funded with zero funding. And similarly, we have a company called ChargeBee, which is moderately funded and also grown to a certain same level. But we have KiSSFLOW, which is pretty much zero funded or no, little or no funding, and we have grown as big as ChargeBee, right? So these models, this slide is essentially to prove that with or without funding, you can build big or medium-sized companies, right? So funding is not a constraint, right? It's a non-consequential item. The other question that comes up to people's mind is that, meaning I have to be in Silicon Valley, I have to be in Bangalore, or even in SaaS, suddenly you shouldn't think this because Chennai is a SaaS capital, you have to be in Chennai. You don't have to be there. So this is a slide where Zoho was able to start company in Tenkasi and Renikunda. These are all like middle of nowhere places, right? And you have big companies like Kayako got built in Jalandhar. So even location is not a constraint. So of course, to start off, it may be a little bit of a constraint, but after that, when you take off, it's quite easy to crack that. It's not that big a problem. It's not a showstopper, definitely. So that's the background of why I think we are in a very, very beautiful time to jump in and build a big SaaS, be part of the big SaaS, growth that's happening in India and the possibility that is right in front of us, and all of us should really leverage that. Now, with that, let me jump in and talk about how do you go about cracking this problem. So before I go into specifics, let me set the stage. There are 5 ways to build a company, right? This is a very famous slide, right? Graphic. There are 5 ways to build a $100 million business, right? So I think you can look at it. You're basically saying you have 1,000 customers, right? Who are paying $100,000 a year, you get a $100 million business, right? Or you have 10,000 customers who are paying $10,000 a year, you'll get $100 million customers, right? And so on and so forth. It's actually called, the first one is called the elephant hunting. The second one is called the deer hunting. The third one is called the rabbit hunting. And the fourth one, of course, is called the mice hunting. And then the last one, of course, is the flea hunting, right? And on the left-hand side, you can also see some of the sample companies which have built their business based on these models, right? Companies like WhatsApp are like, in the US, they charge $1 a month, right? So they are like bees. So companies like MailChimp are going, or like the mices, but they work primarily on a referral loop. Well, the first one is on viral loop, right? And then inbound marketing is where the deer hunting or rabbit hunting works. And then the typical enterprise sales is what you require. The typical wine and dine approach is required to do the elephant hunting. So you need to really understand where is your business and what is the type of hunting that you're actually trying to do. That pretty much shapes the kind of company that you're trying to build, and the problems of each one of these 5 models are very different, right? So that's something that to keep in mind. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that the typical funnel model is slightly different from a SaaS funnel model, or rather the SaaS funnel model is very different from the typical funnel model, right? The typical funnel model basically says that there is marketing which produces leads and goes to sales talks to those leads and then closes the deals and then it becomes customers. But here in SaaS, we really a flywheel, right? And the center of the flywheel is the product and your customers. The reason is customers because SaaS is not about one-time sale. SaaS is about recurring revenue, which means that if you don't keep the customers that you are acquiring in year 1 way into year 2, year 3, and year 4, you're really not building a SaaS business. A SaaS means that customers stay with you for 3 to 5 years. If you don't see customers staying with you 3 to 5 years, that's not a SaaS business. So you are building the product for the customers to use, and they are at the center of it, and it is for a little bit for a longer time, at least 3 to 5 years, if not more, right? So around that comes marketing, sales, and service, which is called customer success, right? And that's a flywheel in action. So that's the critical understanding that we need to have. So is a little bit of a drill down into that, right? So if you look at in the SaaS model, there is a unique thing that you can see here. Typically, marketing feeds into sales, but in SaaS, marketing feeds into product, which means that you talk about your product to your potential customers, and you solicit interest, and then they land in your product. And once they land in your product, they experience your product, and then there is like onboarding team or a customer success team also comes along, and then they make sure that they're able to achieve their initial goals, and then sales comes in and then closes that particular customer and makes them the particular prospect and makes them a customer, right? So the process is a bit different. So of course, I'm talking about a specific category of SaaS here, which is the global SMB SaaS model. We'll talk about it as we go along. So the process is, it starts from acquisition, then there is a little engagement, then there is a success milestone with the customer success team, and then sort of conversion happens, right? And after conversion, the customer success team stays through the customer throughout the life cycle, provides ongoing value so that the customer is not just acquired in year one, but also stays through the through year 2, year 3, year 4, and produces tremendous amount of lifetime value. So that's very, very critical to understand in the SaaS paradigm. So with that, we can jump straight into marketing, right? Now, the pieces of marketing. See, this is a 4-part model, but we are only going to have time to cover 3 parts today. I'm not be able to cover all the 4. So we'll probably end with marketing today, right? And that's the key part. So the first part in marketing is to understand segmentation, right? So this is a segmentation that we use inside KiSSFLOW. So we segment our customers based on employee size. Most of the B2B customers can potentially use the same segmentation here, but in some cases, your company and your target market might require a different way to segment, then you should actually adopt that. So for example, we segment the customers into 5 segments based on the number of employees, starting from Zoho all the way up to the enterprise segment, right? And we basically target really the mid-market and the SMB segment. That is our sweet spot. In fact, the one in the pink is really our sweet spot, right? But we also target the SMB, which is in the yellow. So these are the 2 areas that is our target market. But sometimes what happens is, although we are only targeting these 2 segments, our customers in the enterprise segments get attracted by seeing what their mid-market peers are doing with our product, and they end up buying KiSSFLOW as well. So that is like a pleasant bonus for us. We're not consciously going after the enterprise customers, but we automatically get enterprise customers because of the success that we are generating in the mid-market area, right? So that's important to understand. So as a company, we are focusing on these 2 segments, the pink and the yellow. And the second thing that you need to understand is, in the B2B SaaS, there are 4 types of opportunities that exist, right? I put some sample logos up here. There's no specific preference, except that these are all companies run by CEO friends of mine. So there is some bias here. So don't attach too much value to the logos here. So this is a 2x2 matrix. It's a 4 quadrants. If you really look at it, there are companies who are targeting India and Asia market and targeting the SMB mid-market customers, right? And similarly, there are companies who are targeting India, Asia in the enterprise market, and these are companies like Capillary, right? And there are companies who are again targeting SMB mid-market and to the global market, right? This is where Zoho, Freshworks, KiSSFLOW, and all of that fits in. And then there are also companies who started out of India, they're targeting the global market, but they're targeting the enterprise segment. Again, these are companies like CloudCherry, Unmetric, and Zenoti. Zenoti is in Hyderabad, right? So fortunate, meaning when in the last 2-3 weeks, two companies in this got acquired. CloudCherry and Unmetric is already acquired by other companies. So just an FYI. So, but just coming back, these are the 4 types of SaaS, B2B SaaS businesses one can build out of India. It's important to understand, just like the segmentation, which type of market you are going after. Are you going after the mid-market segment? And in mid-market, are you going after India, Asia markets, or are you going after global markets? It's a completely different ball game, right? So you need to be very, very clear. So if especially if you're going about to the SMB segment, I would really recommend, unless your product is very, very specific to India, I would really recommend you go after the global market straight away, right? So because the effort to do go to market for SMB market globally or very much focused on India is pretty much the same. So there is no additional effort. There's only incremental effort. So it's not a good idea to do just India if you're focusing on SMB market, right? So the other thing that you need to understand is this flywheel in SaaS, right? The flywheel in SaaS starts with great product. So before SaaS, before SaaS, mostly people used to sell using PowerPoint presentations and sales sales teams, strength of the sales teams, right? But SaaS won't sell like that. SaaS needs a great product because people try to, take a trial or, experience the product before buying, right? The SMB, the global SMB market flywheel. This flywheel is very specific to SaaS, targeting global SMB market, right? And since we are talking about SMB market is very price sensitive, right? They don't have enough money. It's not that they want cheap products. It's just that they're a small business and they are medium-sized businesses. They really can't afford $100,000, right? So in that sense, the price needs to be affordable. Since if the price needs to be affordable, you cannot build a large company if you don't sell it in high volume. So which means that you need to go after volume. If you need to go after volume, which means you need to sell it to everyone, which means you cannot go and sell to specific person by going into their office, walking into their office, knocking their doors. You cannot go sell it on feet on street, right? So which means if you have to sell it to everyone, you need to sell it online. If you have to sell it online, you need to make your pricing open and visible for people, because since you're putting it out in the open, you need to allow your customers to do self-selection. And one of the criteria based on which people can self-select is a pricing. For example, if you're buying a car and you have like a 5 lakh budget, you're really going to look at a you're not going to look at a BMW car, but you're going to look at a Swift or something like that. So pricing is a very powerful tool where customers self-select themselves into whether they're going to try your product or not. So make pricing visible, pricing in the website, and also make it prominently visible so that they can obviously look at it. And then provide a try and buy option. Now, when you provide the try and buy option, people are going to experience the product, which means that the loop is now complete, because if they need to experience the product has to be great. Otherwise, they're going to form a bad opinion. If they form a bad opinion, they're not going to buy the product, and the loop is cut off. So that's how the whole loop works. It starts with a great product and ends with a great product, and that's a viral loop in itself. And of course, bear in mind, this won't be applicable for any product in the B2B SaaS. It is specifically applicable to B2B SaaS, which is targeting global SMB market. Okay, because I'm talking only about that because that's what I have done, and that's what KiSSFLOW is all about, and that's the experience that I have, and I don't want to be talking about something that I haven't done. Right now, once we have zeroed on these concepts that we just talked about, and the most important thing that you need to look at is This is the 5-part slide that I would like you to concentrate on. So first, have clarity on what is your idea. The idea has 3 parts, right? The first part is, who's your user, who's your ideal user, or right, and what is the problem that he has, and what is your solution to the problem. Bear in mind that the same problem can be solved by multiple ways. For example, if somebody has to travel, meaning an ideal user, for example, let's say uh, is a business traveler, right? Now the problem is he needs to travel from point A to point B, let's say Chennai to Bangalore. Now that's a problem, and there are multiple solutions to the problem, right? He can take given that check-in time, check-out time, and then travel time from Bangalore airport to the heart of the city, right? It takes 5 hours. Then somebody can literally go on car in 5 hours, but it's a different comfort level, right? Or somebody can take a Shadapti and go. So these are 3 different solutions for the same problem. So bear in mind that, right? Because the same problem can be attacked differently. So together, these 3 parts actually form the core of your idea. So which is the ideal user, what is the problem, and how is that you are trying to solve that problem. And that is what is also called as a unique value proposition, right? USP, what they call it. USP is nothing but how is it your solution is very different from the other solutions that the ideal user has, and hence the ideal user is going to choose yours. That's very important. Once you have clarity in that, that's very, very critical. Then you find out how is the ideal user going to discover your product on the internet, right? One of the key things is, if you're a global SMB product, you need to reasonably have a discoverable product on the internet, which means that people should be able to find your product by searching on Google. If they are not able to find your product by searching on Google, then I would say you're in a non-starter area, right? That's a little difficult to crack. So the most important thing is to have a discoverable product. Now, once you have a discoverable product, that means that people can search and find your website, right? That's very simple. That means they are on your website. They're able to search for the keywords. Your website is coming up, and they're able to click on the website and land in your website. When they land in your website, the most important thing they're looking at is, what is your website talking about in the first fold? And they're looking for credibility, whether is this the right company that I'm working with. So we have customer logos who are already using, and all of that you might want to put there. Then since we talked about try and buy and stuff like that, then you also need to provide a frictionless sign-up experience, or meaning mostly frictionless. But if your product or a solution requires a little friction, then you might also want to introduce that. This can be debatable. But once they are in the product, they should get to what is called as the shortest path to a functional wow, which means they are trying to come to a particular solve a problem. Within the next 5 to 10 minutes, they should be able to get to that wow feeling. Yes, somebody who is looking for a product and who signed up for a product, they have mostly 10 to 15 minutes more, right? From that sign up period, they're willing to invest. They're in the spur of the moment, right? So they'll be able to spend another 10-15 minutes to see if it sort of works. And if your product can achieve that wow, right, in that 10-15 minutes of time, then you really got a hook into the potential buyer's mind, and that's very important. So this is a very, very critical slide, right? Then the most important thing that you need to also understand is the difference between positioning and a marketing slogan, right? I see most of the young founders end up concentrating overly on marketing slogan, which is like a tagline for your brand. But more important than that is the positioning, and the positioning is very different from a marketing slogan. A positioning is our internal articulation. You might not even put your positioning anywhere publicly, right? You might want to Google for positioning, and you will probably get a template of how to write a positioning statement. So a positioning is nothing but an internal articulation of what your product is and who is it targeting, what are the alternatives they have, and how is your solution very different from the other alternatives the customers has. There is a standard template for that. You can look at that. Out of this positioning comes an insight from where you can probably derive a marketing slogan. So that's like a cause and effect, right? So a slogan is a result of the positioning, but the more important thing is understanding the positioning. And this is so critical for early stage companies, very, very important. The second thing that you need to understand is also pick whether your product is a freemium product or a free trial product. That's another important thing, right? Okay, so in most B2B SaaS products, I would think they will fall under a free trial model rather than the freemium model. Right, a freemium model is nothing but you have a free plan as well as a premium plan, which is a paid plan. So you always get customers on the free plan, and then once they reach a certain level of usage or they will probably hit some limits, and then once they get the limits, then automatically they are forced to upgrade to the paid plan, and they become your paying customer. Now, typically, this premium model works very well on B2C products, like WhatsApp, for example, is a B2C product. Most of the typical B2B product works very well in the freemium model, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, the key metrics, there are some key metrics to watch out for free trial versus premium. This is something that will be useful for you. You look at top of the funnel to trial conversions, look at user engagement, look at monthly active users or other transactional metrics, and how many people are converting from free to paid conversions. And there are also some caveats in the freemium model that you need to watch out for. See, when you are committing for a free plan, you are committing for a forever promise, right? For the free users, because you can't suddenly abandon your free plan. If you abandon it, they're going to go out to social media and then start bad mouthing about you or something like that. Today we are living in a sort of an open world, right? So keep that in mind. Also, sometimes, most of the times, there are a lot of examples out there where freemium models have sort of burnt companies because they're not able to actually provide ROI and support, and over time it becomes costly to do that. So keep all of these things in mind. The other thing that you need to also keep in mind is because the global B2B SaaS go-to-market is deeply rooted in content marketing, right? So because it's deeply rooted in content marketing, there's a lot of confusion around content marketing versus marketing content, right? So you might want to read about that. Content marketing is where someone is voluntarily willing to subscribe to your blog or your content. Like the goal for a successful content marketing is when somebody reads a blog and they're super impressed and they feel that's a topic that is useful for them, and they're looking for a subscribe option to subscribe to your blog so that they keep getting newsletters, or whenever you publish a new blog, they start getting alerts from you. So they like it so much, and the topic is so much relevant to them that they are willing to subscribe to your newsletter. On the other hand, marketing content is like, for example, if you're writing a comparison between your product and your competitor product, that is not a content marketing. It is content, but it is a marketing content, right? It is not content marketing. So this is a very important concept. I think you should be very aware of this. You might want to Google for this term on content marketing versus marketing content and search for airport versus gallery, for example, right? We have written a blog on this whole topic You'll probably end up in our blog that has a lot of information around this philosophy around content marketing versus marketing content. Okay. Now, from there, you also need to understand one of the big one of the big issues that happens in marketing teams is marketing teams are very much engaged and engrossed in creation activity. Like, for example, this is a bigger issue that happens with the social media teams. If you'll have a social media team, and if you ask them, they'll be saying, no, they're putting posts and all of that. Putting post is not marketing, right? Putting a post in your social media handle is not really marketing. To me, that is putting a content out. Marketing is really if the content reaches 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people, then marketing is working, right? Now, that really means distribution. So have a deeper understanding of the creation activity and distribution activity. Oftentimes, good creators won't be good distributors, and good distributors won't be good creators. So be aware of that problem, and pick the right people for the creation work and the distribution work. Again, I picked social media as just an example, but this problem happens even when people who are writing blogs. People keep on writing blogs and publish into their website, but there's literally nobody reading those blogs. That means you're just closing the door and playing loud music, which nobody is hearing out there. So if you're writing a blog, if you don't have 1,000 people who are reading this blog, then there is no value in writing that blog. So you're just doing a creation activity. There's no distribution happening. So unless you crack distribution, there is no marketing with your content. So this is a very, very important problem. And another most important one that I wanted to highlight is about SEO. Most young founders, especially early stage companies, right? So they do not take advantage of SEO, and SEO is the most underrated tool. We actually single-handedly built our first $1 million of revenue only through SEO, right? We didn't even have money to spend for paid marketing. So after that, we spent whatever we got, we started investing in paid marketing. Even today, we generate more than 50% of our leads who come to our website and show interest in our product. They come from our SEO activity. And this is a very, very cost-effective, reliable, long-term investment somebody would do. And I often see founders looking at outsourcing agencies who can do SEO. If you're really looking at SEO to be outsourced, what you're really saying is you're sending a signal that SEO is not important, because you are not outsourcing your product development because you think it's IP and it needs to be done internally. But if you're okay to outsource SEO, then you're really saying, it's not that much of an IP to me, and I'm okay to give it to somebody else to solve that. That is a signal for you to say whether it's priority for you. But for us, SEO is so strategic. We have a very, very strong SEO team, and we invest a lot of energy in our SEO activity. And this is a low-hanging fruit, and it has a long-term value. And this is something that most SaaS companies should take advantage of. And right after that, you would also want to write about your target customer profiles. This is an example of a table that I've given here. It talks about if you're an HR software or a purchase software or a finance software, you're basically write it down clearly so that the marketers, this needs to come from the product team or a product management team. It's really, or in the early days, it's the CEO or the founding team, right? You're write it down and say which industry, what is the company size, who's that, which department, which geography, all the attributes that describe the target profile of customers that you're targeting. And this is very, very important for your marketing team and the sales teams to come in line. Without that written down clarity, you will be a bit lost, right? And one of the things I want to touch upon a little bit is the most important 5 marketing metrics that any SaaS business should do, is especially we're looking at B2B SaaS going after global SMB market, is start with tracking the number of visitors who are coming to a website. You need to continuously grow your visitors. and how many of your visitors is becoming signups, which is like who are willing to try your product, and what is the cost of a sign up, right? Or we can also call it cost of a lead or a cost of a sign up, right? That's the second metric. Then how many customers are coming out of the sign up, right? That is the number of customers. And what is the end cost of acquiring a customer, which is actually called as the CAC, cost of acquiring a customer, customer acquisition cost. These are absolute top 5 top metrics that every SaaS company should follow. Of course, there are a lot more metrics. We'll probably summarize that. And why that is important is because you should also have for KiSSFLOW we have something called the KiSSFLOW funnel, where we have an agreement between different stakeholders who are responsible for the end-to-end process of marketing, product, sales. There are 3 teams that our customers, 3 to 4 teams that comes into contact, right? It starts with marketing teams, it goes to product team, then there is customer success team, then there is sales team. All of them are collaborating in making sure a visitor who comes to a website becomes a customer at the end. The end-to-end funnel conversion ratio is for us is 8%, right? But at every stage, we actually have a certain benchmark expectation. For example, if there are 100 visitors who come to our website, if there are 100 signups that happens in our website, we expect 80% of them to be valid, 60% of them 60% of them to be actively engaged in our product, and our sales team is able to establish active conversation with 40% of them, and finally 30% of them gets closed, right? Now, these percentages are percentage on the immediate previous steps. So which means 30% of 40%, right? And 40% of the 60%. So that's how you need to look at this. And then the end-to-end funnel is 8%, right? And one of the things that you need to remember is if you're building in the B2B SaaS, you're basically building 2 products, right? One is your product itself, and the second one is your website. Website has to be of immaculate quality, even lot better than if your product is a whiskey and website is your bottle, right? And you need to actually have the beautiful bottle that packages your product and showcase it to your customers. And if you're not investing time in your website, you won't really make it. So that's why I internally keep telling to my team that we are actually building 2 products. One is our website, another one is our actual product, and that's the kind of importance when it comes to design quality, experience, sign up experience, impression, everything, right, matters, and that's very, very important. I'm in the last couple of slides. Some of the things that in the early stage that we ignored is we didn't attend events, we didn't worry about referral partners, we didn't worry about reselling, road shows, affiliate marketing. These are all very, very distractions. As an young startup, you don't have resources, time or bandwidth or even knowledge to solve all of these problems at one go. You only have time, bandwidth and money to solve 1 or 2 problems. And we actually picked SEO as our first problem to solve, and we cracked it, and then we went after solving one after another problem, and then we built a business. And that's what I would also recommend. Pick 1 or 2, and the 1 or 2 might change between companies to companies. That's fine, but don't pick a whole lot of channels that where you are going to crack your marketing goal, marketing activity. Then you're basically spreading yourself thin, and you won't crack any of that. And that's what is mostly happening in most companies, right? And finally, this is a comprehensive list of monthly metrics that we track. Sorry, I shouldn't say comprehensive, something more extended, I should say, but we have a much larger list, like conversion ratios, organic growth versus paid growth, and we compare organic versus paid, conversion of each online asset. We have a lot more metrics, MRR growth, ARPA and trend in 12 months, CPS of paid versus on overall. So, we have a lot more things to track, but just to give you some idea of what all you need to track. But remember those 5 metrics that I said. And that's about what I wanted to say. And if you have more questions, you can reach out to me. Don't call me, but message me in one of these platforms. Happy to help SaaS entrepreneurs go to the next level. That's where I will stop and pass it back to Vijayan.
Thank you, Suresh. It was a very good session, very engaging. We do have a couple of questions. Probably I'll start with one and then hand over to Tamana to ask the remaining questions. So one question that I have, Suresh, is like, is the KiSSFLOW is your first solution, or it is done based on some pivots and slash like you burnt some of the products before getting to this product?
So KiSSFLOW is our third product. I should say it's a third pivot. We started out with the core idea, and meaning one of the things that we did was we stayed on it for a very, very long time. Of course, we stayed on it too long. That's what I would say. So, so this is the third pivot of the same idea, and unfortunately, we were able to crack it at the third level. But every time we went on that idea, it took 3 to 4 years for us to sort of pivot out of that. Partly because the ideas were not total failures, right? So we would come up with that. Initially we came up with the idea, we were moderately successful, and if it's a total failure, we could have immediately stopped it and then did something else. But since it was moderately successful, we sort of dragged on for some time, and it took 3 to 4 years for us to decide, it's not going anywhere, and then pivot from there. And it happened for the second time also, and then for the third time is when we really sort of put all of these things together. So the key learning there is, in the first time we didn't sort of get the technology right. We built it on client server model. It wasn't scaling for a lot of customers. And then second time we got the technology right. We were in cloud and all of that, but the timing didn't work out well. We didn't crack marketing. And one of the things that I find a common problem is that entrepreneurs naturally focus on sales because sales is closer to money. Because people think that if you crack sales, you will get money, so you naturally focus on sales. But the real problem is sales is a lagging indicator. It's a trailing indicator, right? But marketing is really the leading indicator, and we don't put enough energy in marketing. So which is what we did. Which is what we did in the first two times, right? We were continuously cracking sales, but we are not cracking marketing. But with KiSSFLOW, we not just got the technology right, we got the market category right, we got the timing right, we also cracked marketing. Then everything fall in place. I think that's the long answer to your question.
Okay. Thank you, Suresh. I'll ask another question which I received from Rupin. He's asking whether what is beneficial for a SaaS or service startup, a self-driven company or a partnership-driven company? Which one is efficient and higher in success rate?
Is he asking, is the question related to a legal structure like a proprietorship versus partnership, or what is the question about?
He's saying, how does it make a company global? He's asking whether we should have a self-driven company or a partnership-driven company to be more efficient. That is what the question is.
The question is not very correctly framed, unfortunately.
Okay, so no problem.
If it is legal structure, I would say go for a private limited company, right? And it is about whether it should be a single founder or a co-founders or a bunch of people forming together as a team. I would say, meaning there are both models that are successful, right? If you really look at it, in the general thumb is, if you have a really good rapport, then you would really require 2 to 3 people with extremely great synergy and knowledge levels coming together to make it successful. But ideally, those options are not generally available, right? So
Sure. Next question is from Kanchan. She's asking, what are the things that OrangeScape does differently to delight their customer?
meaning, we do a lot of things, but I can tell you one thing that we do. We were one of the first companies who was 5-6 years ago, we were ready to put out a chat based support for a B2B product.
Okay.
And most of the time, during the time, customers only had an option to file tickets, and then typically the tickets have a 1 day turnaround time, right? If you file a ticket, you expect you will get a response in a day, and that's an acceptable thing at the time. So we basically went around and said, you know what, we're going to put a chat in our product, and if people have questions, we're going to answer it under like an hour or so. But right now, our first response time is like 5 minutes. So we give response to customers in 5 minutes, under 5 minutes, on the average, including Saturdays and Sundays, right? And which means that because Saturdays, Sundays, we have a longer wait time. So which means that pretty much during the weekdays, we are giving instant responses, right? So that's really how how serious we take about customer success and customer delight.
Yeah, that is a great tip. Moving on to next question from Rekha. She is asking, how did you get your first 10 or 20 customers? What was the strategy that you used for getting your initial customers?
There are two parts to this. We got a first few customers for validation purposes through our network. So they are really not called as customers, right? They are really validating your product, right? So although they may be paying some money and they came through a friend's network, but they are really doing validation, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Uh, uh, but what we did is, after we crossed that validation, of course, we went through people within our company who had friends who can try our product, and we did that first 5-6 customers, maybe 10. Although some of them did pay, we wouldn't strictly count them in our customer list. But after that, we adopted marketing, especially search engine optimization, SEO, and through which we drove traffic to our website and we got people signing up for our product. And from there, we got inquiries and we started converting those inquiries, and we did more of that. So we got the first 20-30 customers. Primarily, these are strangers who found our product by searching in Google, landing in our product website, and signing up for our product. And we spoke to them, helped them succeed with our product, and then made them paying customers. So these are all like complete strangers, not known to us. They organically discovered our product, and that's what I would recommend you guys also.
Right. Right. Cool. And there's one more question from Rekha again. She's asking, what are some of the US-based acquisition strategies that might have worked for you?
Meaning, I think this is a redundant question because,
Okay.
as I said, this whole approach we talked about is a approach that will work for globally.
Sure.
Because you're doing SEO, you're going to do it for searches that's happen internationally, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you're going to solve that problem for a global scale, automatically it will work for US as well.
Sure.
Right. In fact, it works more efficiently in the US, right? If you do it for global scale, because US customers are generally a little bit more savvy than any other geography. So they are also open, and they technology-wise they are savvy. So they'll search on Google, they'll land in a page. They're very self-service mindset. They'll willing to try your product, and all of that is going to happen. So it'll actually, whatever I said, if you follow, it will not work for globally, but it'll work beautifully for US.
Right, right. Okay, there's one question from Sujit who's asking, what is SAS Bhumi? How can other entrepreneurs connect with and leverage SAS Bhumi?
Okay, SAS Blooming is a community of SaaS entrepreneurs in India. And it is also a conference that we do once in a year. It happens in Chennai, and the the next conference is going to happen in January 2020, towards the third week of January, 24th and 25th, if I'm right. Ask him to follow SAS Boomi Twitter handle, and we'll make announcements there. And this is the India's only and the largest SaaS conference. We will probably have more than 500. This time we are targeting. Last time we had 500 SaaS founders. It's a founders only event. We don't allow non-founders in this event. Founders and co-founders are allowed. Last time we had close to 500 people. This time I think we're targeting around 800 or something like that. So it's going to be the India's largest SaaS event.
Cool. I think we are just on time. I'll take one last question if that's fine.
Sure.
Okay. So, what is your generic advice to all the upcoming SaaS startups in India and global who are approaching the global market? What is that one advice that you'll give to all the SaaS startups?
Meaning, I think this whole presentation was around that, right? So it is like a summary of what you are asking me.
Okay.
The most important thing is understand what is that you're building, or which market are you building. Are you building it for the SMB market or the enterprise market? Don't build it for everyone. Don't build it for SMB, mid market, enterprise. See, mid market and SMB can go together, but enterprise and SMB won't go together. So an SMB product, the won't really, the model, your sales model, your go-to-market model, the pricing, everything won't work in the enterprise segment. So have clarity on that. Then look at whether your geography-wise, are you looking at a particular region like India, Asia, or going global. Have clarity on that. Understand that 5 stages we've been talking about. What is your ideal product? What is his problem? What is the solution? Think about the wow experience. Pick the freemium versus free trial model. Focus on SEO. Now, all these, this is exactly what we talked through this entire presentation, right? That's what I would do. And also, SAS Boomi, we run this 6-hour workshop I talked about. We run that workshops once in 3 months. I have done like 11 or 12 workshops across the country now, and each workshop contains like 20 people. So I probably met 250, 300 entrepreneurs one-to-one doing these workshops. So that's something that I would encourage people to attend. Look out for SAS Boomi, and whenever that workshop happens, that's going to be a lot more intensive workshop on what we did. So that's probably where I will stop.
Okay. Thank you so much, Suresh. It was very engaging and very informative work, like a session that you delivered. And thank you, Vijan, for setting this up and connecting us with Suresh. And we really hope that this session was got some good understanding for the attendees. Also, they had some interesting takeaways from this webinar. And look forward to engage with you again, Suresh, maybe on a different topic. And look forward to your sessions. And thank you so much for attending. Vijan, you would like to say something?
Yeah, I would like to thank all the audience for their participation. The questions were really amazing. And throughout the session, the engagement was there. Thank you so much for that as well.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
all.
Great meeting everyone. And if you have any questions, catch me on LinkedIn. So I'll probably, I'm generally happy to answer questions, although I may not able to respond very, very fast, but give me a few days, I'll probably respond. Thank you very much. And thanks, Vijayan, and Thanks Intuit for organizing this. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye bye.
Thank you everyone for joining.